What is your view on financial trauma and that relationship with money that you speak about?
This comes down to the foundational relationship that you have with money. I believe that we all have a money story. We have foundational beliefs that we were taught about money or that we learned about money growing up. And these can happen from big or small traumatic moments.
You've said that money is a mirror and not a measure of value, but a reflection of your patterns and beliefs.
The first one is not enoughness. This is the idea that there's not enough to go around. There's limited resources available. There's only so much food in the house. There's only so much time in a day, right? So it's this idea of like, there's not enough for me. And then based off of that, this then leads to the second, which is worthiness. And then the third one is what I like to call starving artist syndrome.
And when you say money is a tool, how do you define that?
Yeah, I believe that money is one of the most powerful tools for manifestation. I think in our life, there are three creators. There's time, there's energy, there's money. Anytime you spend time, energy, or money, what you're doing is you are creating a result. And you can look around at this life that you're living and see very clearly the results that you are manifesting through how you have been spending your time, your energy, and your money.
What's up, dreamers and doers, and welcome to the Dope Living Podcast, a conversation platform for ambitious people rewriting the rules of success in a modern world. Today's conversation is for anyone who's ever thought, I'm working hard, I'm talented, I'm doing all of the right things, so why doesn't my bank account reflect that? If you felt underpaid, undercharging, or low-key scared of money, this is a conversation for you. My guest today is Scarlett Stanhope, also known as the Biz Hippie, an abundance coach who helps coaches and creatives master their money mindset and own their worth so they can be fully supported by the work they love. She brings a background in business, finance, and accounting together with energetics, inner healing, and tangible money practices to help people rewrite their money story and build real freedom. Exactly what we talk about here on the Dope Living Podcast. Scarlett, welcome to Dope Living.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to be a guest on your show.
I'm so excited for this conversation and to talk to you about this really important, somewhat taboo, somewhat confusing topics at many points in our lives. So I'm going to dive right into it. So for someone who's watching this episode or kind of clicked to watch it, you know, when we say money mindset, it can sound fluffy. The truth is, I just need to make more money. It would be what someone is thinking. Why would you say having this conversation is important and why they should listen to this particular episode today?
Yeah, this is such a great question because this is the common problem that I actually see a lot of people dealing with is if you have any form of money stress present in your life, the very easy, obvious solution is to make more money. And the thought is that once I make more money, then these problems that I'm having now are just magically going to go away. And simply having more money is the solution to what I am dealing with now. But I have experienced and witnessed time and time again with my clients and having hundreds of conversations with people about money that this is actually not the case. What's actually more important than the amount of money that you have is the relationship that you have with money. This is the reason why people can actually earn more and still feel exactly the same. If anything, they might feel more stressed about money, still feeling like they don't have enough, still feeling like they need to keep hustling and pushing and working and making more in the hopes that maybe someday then it will be enough. This is also the reason why lottery winners can win tons of money and then spend it all and go bankrupt in just a matter of months or years. And really what it comes down to is changing how you think about, how you feel about, and how you use the money that you have so that when you do get more, you can feel that feeling and that sense of enoughness that doesn't come from simply having a higher amount of money alone.
And with a previous guest, we really we started to talk about financial trauma and financial trauma actually being a real thing. What is your view on financial trauma and that relationship with money that you speak about?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is something that I talk about with my clients all the time. And really, this comes down to the foundational relationship that you have with money. I believe that we all have a money story. We have foundational beliefs that we were taught about money or that we learned about money growing up. And these can happen from big or small traumatic moments. A lot of these stories could look like, being the teenager in school, not being able to have the name brand things, and therefore getting bullied and treated like you weren't good enough and having that mean something about you. The fact that your family couldn't afford the nice things, or the opposite, like growing up with a lot of money and being the rich kid and what you made that mean about you. Having your family be well off at one point and then their business tank, and then suddenly you're not well off, and that changes everything in the dynamic of the family. Also, it could look like your parents fighting over money growing up. And really, all of these traumatic moments, they create the story of your current relationship with money. And this generally balances out to be some form of money is evil, bad, or wrong. It's not safe for me to have money. It's not safe for me to make money. It's not safe for a lot of it to be in my hands. And therefore, I'm either going to repel it from coming to me, or when I get it, I'm going to spend it very quickly and push it away.
So is it a type of story, or you talked about different scenarios and different stories that do exist in people's lives? I guess, where do those stories eventually take? Is there a path if you're on one of those story routes? Is there a path that you may end up or likely have ended up? How does that, journey look when you're a part of one of those stories?
Yeah, and this is true for money, but it's also true for everything. And honestly, this is one of the reasons why I love to do work around money, is because our money stories not only tie into our finances, it also is a reflection of our self-worth and our beliefs about ourselves and the world as well, too. And so what happens is we have these moments in time, especially when we're younger, and these moments happen, and from those moments we learn things. We establish core foundational beliefs about our self-worth, about the world and what's possible for us, and about money. And then that creates the money story. Then what happens is, once these beliefs have been instilled and the story has been created, unconsciously, your brain will work to continue to perpetuate that storyline and continue to prove these beliefs to be true. So, for example, if there's a story that says, having money makes you a bad person and it's righteous and noble to be broke, and therefore I want to be a good broke person. That's a storyline I actually grew up with. So that one's near and dear to me. I think it's common.
Yeah.
If you have that storyline, then if you don't check that at all or do anything about it to bring awareness to it or shift it, what happens is that continues to be true for the rest of your life. And so you will see people having money and just collect evidence that those people are evil or bad. You will ignore any evidence against it, saying that money could be good. And as a result, you will attract those financial scenarios that align with that belief. So therefore, you will very likely repel money-making opportunities, or anytime you do make money, you will spend it just as fast as it came in, because deep down, you are living the storyline of money's evil and bad. I don't want to be evil and bad, and therefore I cannot have money.
Interesting. Now let's talk a bit about what you do. You help people connect the dots between money, identity, and self-worth. When your clients first come to you, what's usually going on beneath the surface? Because it's rarely that it's just that I suck at budgeting, for example. It's something else. And is it you actually decoding that relationship first?
Yes. So in the work with my clients, I believe that we have to address the tangible side of money. So learning how to manage it, track it, and be in control of it. But then we also have to address the intangible side of money, of your relationship, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your stories around money. And you really have to do both, because you can't have one without the other. You can teach someone all the right budgeting, money management, investing strategies and tactics. But if deep down we have subconscious fears about looking at our money, believing it's complicated or hard, or it's just not for us, or, all the different stories around money, that's going to prevent us from ever actually taking advantage of the strategies. And so when I first start working with my clients, we spend a whole month diving in to what I call scarcity seeds. These are the primary scarce-based beliefs that everybody experiences in big and small ways, and really uncovering where do these scarce-based beliefs come from, what were the stories that implanted them, what are the results that unfold in our lives when we continue to believe these scarcity seeds to be true, and how do we notice when these scarcity seeds are coming up in our lives and begin to unwind them so that we can cultivate new abundance-based beliefs around our money.
You've said that money is a mirror and not a measure of value, but a reflection of your patterns and beliefs. What are, I guess, as you talk about those underlying beliefs, what are some examples of that?
Yeah. So going back to those 3 scarcity seeds, I think everybody has them in one way or another, and they show up in different ways for everybody. But the first one is not enoughness. This is the idea that there's not enough to go around. There's limited resources available. There's only so much food in the house. There's only so much time in a day, right? So it's this idea of there's not enough for me. Life is a pie. There's only so many slices available, and maybe not everybody is going to get a slice. And then based off of that, this then leads to the second scarcity seed, which is worthiness. If there's only so much to go around, then who's to say that I am worthy and deserving of having my slice? Because if I take a full slice, then am I taking away from someone else? Does me having actually harm others? And how do I determine if I am worthy, deserving, and good enough of actually receiving, of having? And that really deeply, that one ties into self-worth. And then the third one is what I like to call starving artist syndrome. This is a belief of either or. Either we can make money or we can do the things that we love, but we can't have both. And this is what keeps people stuck in unfulfilling jobs that are misaligned for them, because there's a belief that we can't actually do what we love and make money doing it. And between these 3 scarcity seeds, this can show up in so many actual ways, but this is really the crux of what can hold people back from doing the work that they love, making the impact they want to make, living the lives that they want to live, and really letting money be the thing that holds them back.
Wow, that you really struck a chord with me there, because those 3, as you call it, scarcity seeds are, I think, something any one of us would have touched on at some point in our lives, right? And now connecting that to how that would affect our relationship with money is wild. But, your story is such a powerful backdrop for this work. You went through a very traditional achievement and money-driven path. And then you went full on Biz Hippie. Can you walk us through that shift that you went through and how that relates to a lot of us who may be listening now?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, this is why I'm so passionate about the work that I do, because I lived it. There was growing up, I truly believed that success and money was the priority. And I just spent all of my time checking all the boxes so that I could do life right, and this looked like being a young perfectionist, type A, high achieving straight A student who also had migraine headaches at 8 years old, trying to maintain these standards of perfectionism. And then this bled into my young adulthood when I was managing restaurants by the time I was 18. I was paying for college out of pocket, had 0 student loans because I was working crazy hours until 2 a.m. managing my team in the restaurants. I was maintaining my 3.9 GPA in my bachelor's for business management, accounting, and finance. And I was saving money. I had $30,000 saved by the time I was 20. And so I was doing life right in so many ways. People looked at me and was like, wow, Scarlett really knows what she's doing. She's like crushing it. Yeah. But at the same time, I I could say unfulfilled, but a more accurate term would be dead inside. I really felt like I was a zombie walking through my life. And my life was really a reflection of that. I was burnt out. I was depressed. I was suicidal. I was in kind of a toxic work environment, stressful work environment. I was in a relationship that I had no business being in. It was not a healthy relationship. And I had constant migraines and was covered in head to toe eczema. My life was so painful to be in that my body was screaming at me, and it was literally so uncomfortable to be in my own skin. And I was waiting for life to start. I was hoping that someday I would cross some magic finish line that said, okay, you did it, you checked enough boxes, you've arrived, and now you can start to consider living the life that you want to live. And I had some pretty harsh rock bottom moments that helped me realize that life was already happening and that I was actually already living it and that I was the one in control of it. So instead of surrendering my power over to these ideas of money and success and trying to achieve, I decided to get off the hustle hamster wheel and start living the life that I want to live now. And instead of money holding me back from doing that, using my money as a tool to actually create that life. And that's when I started my business, dove into everything that lit me up, like started traveling, attending retreats, became a yoga instructor, like just said yes to everything. And then I really honed in on this is it. This is the thing. How can I bring together all my skill sets, my former like money management, educational background with my coaching modalities to really help people live lives that they love now without money being the thing stopping us.
And when you say money is a tool, how do you define that?
Yeah, I believe that money is one of the most powerful tools for manifestation. I think in our life, there are three creators. There's time, there's energy, there's money. Anytime you spend time, energy, or money, what you're doing is you are creating a result. And you can look around at this life that you're living and see very clearly the results that you are manifesting through how you have been spending your time, your energy, and your money. Now, most of us wield these powers very unintentionally. We're not aware of why we're choosing what we're choosing and how we are creating these results that we may or may not want. And it's the same with our money. We use our money very unconsciously, passively. We say yes to some things for some reason. We say no to other things for some reason without real awareness around what is most important to us, what is most in alignment for us. And when we spend our money in alignment with the life that we want to live, that's how we bring that money into reality. Because every time you spend money, you are making a choice, you are making a decision, and you are creating a result. And so when you just bring intention and consciousness and awareness into how you spend every single dollar, then you can literally create the life that you want to live using the power of your money.
I love that. For the person who's listening now who believes that if I really follow my joy, I'll never make real money, right? And it's really a real thought process, right? Because as you say that, use your money for like what you want to use it for. But what if what brings me joy doesn't necessarily make me money? What would you say to them right now?
Yeah, this is really important. And I think there's a couple important factors here. One is that this idea that we can't do what we love and make money is really an old belief and an old thought process. And at one point, it was absolutely true. You know, like we did actually have to do a lot of things in order to survive. And therefore, that survival mentality has been bred into our society. And it's valid. It's here for a reason. It's important. We do need to do certain things in order to survive. But our society has gotten to a point where we're beyond survival mode. We're all doing a really great job surviving. We have everything that we need. And really, we don't need to be in hunter-gatherer, fight or flight all the time. And so the reality is shifting where there is enough to go around. We have the basic needs of survival and safety where it is possible. It is a time for you to get to choose what you love and for that to support you financially. Also, we're shifting into a reality where the fact that you are doing what you love fuels you and brings momentum and brings power into where you are spending your time and energy. And therefore, it actually makes you more of a magnet for money. Like, sure, yes, you could have some safe, consistent money over here, but I do a lot of work with entrepreneurs who want to pursue a new, brave, different path. And yes, it's challenging at first. And yes, it might take a little bit of time to build some momentum. But once you get into that energy of passion and belief and commitment in doing what you love, that actually allows you to step into exponential financial growth, way more than was even possible for you to create when you were stuck doing something that you didn't love and that you didn't resonate with. So that's one. And then the other thing I want to touch on that I think is also important is you can learn to bring what I like to call this energy of abundance, this energy of fulfillment and enjoyment into all aspects of your life. So not only do I help my clients align their life with their vision, where they're choosing more enjoyable things, I also teach them how to bring that same level of enjoyment into your present life and into your present reality. Because even if you're not like a millionaire yet, living the vision yet, you can actually still create all of the feelings and all of the experiences and really live your most abundant life now in your present situation. So I think it's about balancing both, choosing to create the abundance, choosing to believe in what is possible for you and learn how to actually make money doing what you love. And if there are areas of your life that aren't perfect yet, it's how can you feel fulfilled and enjoy every aspect of your life.
Let's talk about now identity, self-worth, and what you charge. You've spoken about how identity shapes income. In your work, how do you see someone's self-concept, who they believe they are, showing up in their pricing, their offerings, and their money habits?
Oh my gosh, this is such a perfect example of how your relationship with money affects your money. Like, this shows up big time in business. It shows up big time in pricing. Because if you have any stickiness, doubts, not enoughness, any gunk around your relationship with money, it's going to make it really hard to sell something to somebody. Because basically what you're saying without saying it is like, hey, I'm really desperate for your money because I need to pay my bills. Will you buy my thing? Right? And scarcity doesn't sell. Or maybe what you're saying under the surface is, I don't really know if I'm worth this price point, but will you please buy it from me? I hopefully think I can deliver the results, but I'm not really sure, so maybe you shouldn't buy it. Like, this is the energy that you're bringing into your marketing, your sales, your consultations, right? And this really shows up in your price point. You can have the right price point based on industry standards, based on what other people are charging, based on what you were told to charge. But if you don't have the self-worth, the belief, the energy, the mindset backing that, it's going to make it really hard to sell. So you have to be very mentally and emotionally in alignment and confident with your price point. And in fact, when you find that aligned price point for you, it actually makes selling easier. And I have experienced this personally in my business. I went through a period of time where I was trying to sell my program and I just had no after no after no. I had no success. And then what I did, which was in alignment for me, was actually increase my prices. And then out of the blue, I made the largest sale I ever had in my business. And it was the easiest sale I ever had in my business. So shifting your relationship with money has a huge impact on your ability to sell, and aligning your price point with a healthy relationship with money also makes it easier to sell.
What's the mindset that it takes, or what is the mindset if you are the type of person that is scared to go after money, like as a whole? Like, I give an example. If you want to charge and you've given a price and they've paid 50% down, and now you're scared about getting the balance. How do you make that shift as well when you're scared of money? And you need to change your relationship in that aspect.
Yeah, well, really, like if I was coaching a client on this, the first question I would ask is, what are you afraid of? Why are you scared? What is it that's creating this fear? And the thing that I see very common from my clients, who are especially like coaches, healers, people who want to make a big positive impact, people who are doing what they're doing from a place of service and really caring about people, there's a common conflict between money and service. And there's a thought that if I'm taking money from people, I'm harming them, I'm doing something bad to them, and it's diminishing the service that I want to provide. It's like it's not coming from my heart anymore. It's tainting it. Whereas this is just something I'm passionate about. I don't want the money to make it seem like I only care about the money instead of caring about the people. That's kind of like the common relationship with money that heart-based service providers and entrepreneurs has. And that plays a huge role on not being able to ask for money, receive the money, set price points, being able to speak your price point and get people to actually give you that money. And so my quickest, simplest mindset shift that I talk about all the time is, so this is the thought error, is that your price point is diminishing your impact and your value and your service. I believe it's the exact opposite. I believe that your price point is part of the value that you provide. It is part of the service that you offer. Because when you are offering a price point to somebody, you are giving them the opportunity to commit to themselves in a more powerful way than they were ever able to do that before. You're giving them the opportunity to commit to investing time and energy on this thing. You're giving them the opportunity to commit to themselves, their vision, their future, the value that they want to receive, the results that they want to receive. And, I'm sure we've all signed up for free things. And I've signed up for so many free things in my business. You know how many of those I used? None of them. I didn't use any. It wasn't until I started paying $6,000, $10,000, $15,000 for things that I really actually received the value of those things. And so your price point really gives people the opportunity to rise up to committing to themselves. This is why if you're paying like $5 for the gym, you might not go. But if you're paying $500 for the gym, I don't do that, but some people do, you're going to go to that gym or like a personal trainer, right? So that's part of it, is just see how if you remove the price point option, you're actually doing a disservice to your people, because you're removing their opportunity to commit fully and actually get the results that you are offering.
I love that. So that entire mindset shift is really about, focusing more on the value that this is going to have for the person that you're serving, right? And making sure that they step up to the plate and giving them that opportunity to do so. I love that.
Yeah. And money is the gateway, really. Money is the opportunity. If you offered the same service but without the price, like their ability to show up and to commit and show up to every meeting or call or go all the way to the end, like all of that decreases. They're actually going to get less value by you discounting your services or doing it for free. So really, like, they actually need your price point in order to get the full value of what you are offering.
The truth is, a lot of people, so we're going to switch now over to survival mode versus money and overflow. So a lot of people aren't starting from a neutral place. They're in survival mode, supporting family, paying off debt, rebuilding after burnout, or maybe recovering from a crisis. How do you talk about the money mindset with someone who feels like they're just trying to, for example, keep the lights on?
Yeah, I think there are two components to this. One is that there are a set of internal strategies and emotional regulation strategies that you can do to start to unwind these stories around money, these emotions around money. We've already talked about some of them. One is uncovering scarcity seeds. The other is pinpointing those stories that we are perpetually creating around money and removing the emotional charge that they have and starting to unwind those stories. The other piece that I use with my clients is starting to uncover the different parts of ourselves that are acting in our lives and are also creating these results of our lives. So there's a ton of internal awareness steps that you can do that makes a really big difference for emotional regulation and creating safety around money, which is really important. And the other piece to this that I find makes a huge difference is actually learning to manage and track your money. Because one of the biggest reasons why people experience money stress is actually because you don't have a clear picture of what's happening with your money. And so the stress is not fully coming from your real financial situation. It's coming from assumptions and estimations that you are making about your money situation. And most of the fear is actually coming from the unknown, like not knowing how much you have, not knowing when it's going to run out, not knowing if you're going to make it through the month. The unknown is what creates the survival mode. And so getting your money on paper and learning to see in a zoomed out way very clearly exactly what's happening with your money and how much money you actually have, that really does eliminate a lot of the money stress. Because then instead of being in this constant survival mode, wondering how much you have and being in the unknown and having to constantly deal with being in the unknown, instead we make it known. And even if it's not a great financial situation, now all you have to do is feel safe and solid and emotionally regulated within that reality, as opposed to infinite realities. And then once you do that, you can actually set down a lot of the money stress, and then you can do something about it. When you don't know what's happening with your money, you have no control or power over it. You don't know how to solve that situation. You don't know how to fix it or make it better. But if you can actually see what's happening, then you put the control back in your hands and you can come up with a game plan to do something about it. And that is what eliminates so much money stress and also changes your financial situation.
For sure, for sure. That visibility is so important. And then having a plan, right? Instead of saying, well, because that ends up being the biggest excuse. I just don't know where my money is going. And, that is something to solve for at the end of the day.
Exactly.
What does abundance look like in the most grounded sense when you're talking about, let's say, getting to the point where you now have visibility, you can see what you're working with, for example, where your money's going, you're figuring out how to regulate. How do we now skip over to abundance?
Yeah, and there's two things here. One is that abundance is part of a ladder. So the first step in that ladder is safety. You have to feel safety first, which is what we've already been talking about. The next step is sufficiency. This is this sense of like okayness, of enoughness. I am enough. I have enough. Things are okay. And then that's when you get into abundance. And then to add to that, abundance is not an amount of money. It's a state of being. It's a way that you live your life, and it's how you feel in your life. And something else that I teach my clients how to do is how to live your most abundant life starting right now, no matter how much money that you have. And so the exercises that I walk my clients through is getting really clear on what is your vision. If money wasn't an issue, what does your most abundant life look like? Like, what is most important to you? What do you prioritize? Where do you spend your time? Where do you spend your energy? Where do you spend your money? Like, what are you doing? What are you choosing? And when you get really clear on that and you boil it down to the foundations of what is most important, there are ways for you to create that life and to prioritize those things right now. Like, one example of this, and this is a personal example for me, is in my dream house, I have like lots of land and space for a big garden. And our brain likes to trick us and say, in order to do that, I need to now wait until I like have the money to move to the big land, and then I'll make the garden. And we just like push it off into the future when we have the money, when we have the time, when we have the energy. But one day I was walking around my backyard, which is not huge, but I do have a small backyard, and I saw this plot of weeds, like this huge square of weeds that I just always walked by and didn't think anything about. And one day it like hit me in the head, and I was like, oh my gosh, this literally is my garden. And so I weeded the whole plot of weeds and I made a garden. It was like it literally appeared out of thin air. And so I teach my clients, how can you get creative with what you already have to create the life you want to live? Because the truth is most people are not fully utilizing what they have. We're not fully taking advantage of our time. We're not fully taking advantage of our money. We're not fully taking advantage of the space in our house. We have piles of junk we don't use sitting in the corner, and then we complain that we don't have enough space. And we're not fully taking advantage of our money. So when you create the life that you want to live now in big and small ways, that's how you start to live your abundant life now. And then as you make the most of what you have, that's when you expand into more. Because getting more space isn't going to create the garden when you technically have the space to create the garden now.
Right. Yeah, and that's a fair point, right? Like you want to, like, I'm going to do it then. But if you haven't figured out a way to do it now, in many cases, you're probably not going to do it, even if you got, the big plot of land in your example, if you didn't figure out how to find the discipline and the creativity to get it done with what you have.
Exactly. And it could even be really small too. Like going back to this garden example, maybe you don't have a plot of land, but you could have a tiny pot of whatever, basil, and then you use that basil to cook your pasta, because you're like, that's part of the dream, is I have a fresh herb garden and I use the herbs to cook. And so even though that's small, what you're doing is you're training your brain to see, look, I am living the vision, because here I am using my own homegrown herbs to make my pasta. And the belief cultivation is what creates the feeling and the life of abundance, which expands you more and more into your vision.
I think it's a great reminder. Let's kind of shift now to money as a spiritual and emotional teacher. Part of what makes your work unique is how you blend spirituality and money. For people who grew up hearing that money is evil, like we spoke about earlier, it's unspiritual to care about money, how do you reconcile faith, intuition, or spirituality with wanting to be financially supported and abundant?
Yeah. And I think money is very spiritual in two ways. One is that it is the deepest level of personal growth and development that you can do, is really transforming your relationship with money, because it ties into safety, survival, and it ties into your self-worth and your foundational beliefs about yourself and the world. So you can do a lot of healing and personal growth in a lot of areas of life, but still have money be the thing that's not clicking. And therefore, when you heal your relationship with money, it actually heals every area of your life, especially like relationships as well, too. When you heal your money, you're also healing your romantic relationships. You're also healing in your business as well, too. So that's one answer to your question, is that money is the deepest layer of personal growth, and transforming your relationship with it does transform your whole life. And on the flip side of that, once you have transformed your relationship with money, not only does your money become a tool to create the life that you want to live and to literally manifest the life that you want to live, it also becomes a tool to impact the world. Because the truth is that right now, every single one of us, anytime we spend any amount of money, we are actually making an impact on the world. We are choosing what kind of world we want to live in, what we want to see more of, what we want to see less of, and what is important to us. And so, yeah, we live in a world where there's a lot of chaos and a lot of conflict and a lot of things that we might not like or not want. And it might feel like we're really small and there's nothing that we can do about it. And that like money is what's creating all this evil in the world. But really, we are all contributing to this world in one way or another. The question is are you contributing in alignment with the kind of world that you want to live in? And so when you bring powerful intention to how you spend your money, you are making a huge positive impact on the world, because when we all spend our money in alignment with the kind of world we want to live in, that's how we change the world. And that's how we create not only the kind of life we want to live, but the kind of world that we want to live in. And the truth is you're already doing this right now with the money that you have. We just need to shift it, and then you become a powerful creator of this world.
And it leads me to a few tough questions, right? One is, so where did the saying, money doesn't buy happiness come from, right? And, why is it that we do see these uber rich people? And I mean, I don't have to name who they are. I think we all know who they are. And we don't see, I guess we see that they're creating something and they're trying to make the world better, but we're not seeing necessarily great people.
Yeah, I think these are really great questions. I don't think money can buy happiness because money is just a reflection of you. It's just going to amplify and create more of whatever you got going on inside. And it's just going to expand it. So if you're living your life in a state of not enoughness, right? Maybe that's lacking fulfillment or depression or just like not feeling satisfied, whatever that is. If you're in a place of not enoughness and you're piling on more and more money into your situation and into your life, your money is just going to expand and exacerbate what already exists, which is why when we do this work of changing your relationship with money and like going in and saying, how can you feel abundant now? What are your scarcity seeds? Why do you feel the way that you feel? And how can we unwind that and step into the energy of abundance and enoughness now? And then you pour more money into that situation, then you're just expanding more of that. Because money is just a mirror and it's just a reflection. So it's just going to amplify you and what you have going on. And so the reason why there's a lot of evil going around with people with a lot of money is because those people have chased money and success to try and fill some void, to try and resolve some trauma, to try and heal some pain and some suffering, and to get to the feeling of enoughness. And that's the problem, is that enoughness has to start from inside first, and no amount of money will create that. And so this is why we all, as individuals, need to do this healing work on our own. And then once we all shift into this energy of enoughness, attract more and more money into our lives so we can tip the scales of the types of people with a lot of money to be more of us who are acting from and expanding this energy of abundance and enoughness.
That is profound, right? As you know, we hear it all the time. Money doesn't buy you happiness. Money doesn't buy you happiness. And, we are always kind of trying to figure out, well, what are these guys doing differently from what we're doing to attract money? So let's kind of talk about the attraction of money, because we also want to be in a place where money comes to us. And from what I'm hearing, it is starting with that inner work. And then it's actually using that inner work to change your relationship with money, to then be able to ask for more, or to be able to put yourself out there in a way that attracts more money. How does that attraction now look once you've done that inner work?
Yeah. So the inner work is really important because whatever you got going on inside is going to determine how you attract or repel money. Again, if you have negative beliefs about money being bad in whatever way, you're going to repel it. So honestly, that makes the biggest difference, to step into this belief of worthiness, deservingness, you having money actually being good, as opposed to having internal conflict around it. And first and foremost, that'll make a really big difference on its own. Like, even if you just do that, that'll make a huge impact. And that's like the thing that's typically keeping people stuck around the money, especially in entrepreneurship. But then on top of that, money likes to be respected. And so when you're not aware of how much money you have, or you can't see your money clearly, you don't know where it's going, you're not being conscious about where you're spending it, it seems like it's slipping through the cracks, you don't know where it's going, you feel like you never have enough, you're not respecting and honoring your money, so why would money respect and honor you? So this is why I love to teach my clients how to manage their money. This is different than budgeting. Budgeting tells you what you can't do with the money that you have. It feels limiting and restricting. It feels like you never have enough. But blueprinting tells you what you can do with what you have. It feels empowering. And so starting to honor and respect your money by choosing what are you going to prioritize with it? What choices are you going to make? Knowing where it's going and having that respect around money, that makes attracting it in even more easy. And that makes a really big difference. And then the third thing I would say is feeling confident in your flow of money and like being willing to invest in big ways. I think that it does, when you are comfortable and confident circulating money, you, not just in, but also out, that opens up the door for more to flow in. So as I've increased my success in my business, a lot of that has come from being willing to make bigger, scarier investments in myself and in my business, and being able to do that with confidence and know with certainty that more is going to flow in. And so I'd say those are like the three components that really lead to attracting in bigger and bigger ways.
That's interesting because we hear you got to spend money to make money, right? and
yeah, I would say that that's true, but it's true in specific ways. You can't just throw money at your problems and hope that they go away. You got to do it in a aligned way with intention. Yeah.
So let's talk about a simple money reset for 2026 and beyond. Let's say someone wants to use the next 6 to 12 months as a turning point for their money life. No get rich quick stuff, just a real reset. How do you break that down into a simple roadmap?
Ooh, I love this question. I think this is great. So there's a couple different components depending on where you're starting from. If you're starting from zero, you have like a kind of crappy relationship with money, you've never thought about this before at all, and you don't look at your money, you don't manage it. One is starting to recognize that you have a relationship with money and starting to bring awareness to what your relationship with money is. We all have a relationship with money, but it just becomes so normalized that we don't even see it. It's like we're swimming in the water and we can't see the water all around us. And so start to question things as your relationship with money instead of reality. Start to notice where scarcity shows up for you. And what this looks like is, what are the things you say yes to spending on and why? What are the things you say no to spending on and why? How do you feel most of the time about money? What are the types of words you use? What do you say, right? When do you think about money? When do you not think about money? And just start to notice all of these things. Bringing awareness to your money is really powerful. And then if you want to go a layer deeper, start to question, like, what are my foundational beliefs and where did these come from? And your brain, because it has these foundational beliefs, has been collecting a lot of evidence that those beliefs are true for your whole entire life. And so to start to unwind these scarce-based beliefs, what you can do is start to look for and collect evidence of the opposite. Because there are a lot of people living fulfilling, thriving, abundant, aligned lives too. So to start to collect that evidence of what is possible for you and what is possible in the world. And then on the more practical, tangible side as well, I would say start looking at your money and bringing awareness to your money. If you have a lot of fear and
respecting your money.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. If you have a lot of fear around money, just start to check your bank account regularly and practice finding safety in that, especially if it feels really scary. Can you breathe through those emotions? And then the next step would be get what's happening with your money on paper, because your bank account amount is not an accurate picture of how much money that you have at all. There's a bigger picture that needs to be had. And so starting to get down, how much money do I have coming in and how much is going out and where is it going? So you can start to see it clearly.
You've helped coaches and creatives go from fear to feeling fully supported by their work. What pattern do you see in people that actually finally make the shift? Like, what is the success story and what are they doing and how are they doing it?
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of clients make this transition, or a lot of clients who are still in the middle of this transition, and it looks different for everybody, right? Because you are the one in control of that transition point. I think some of the most important factors is you have to feel safe and solid in that transition. Because if there's any part within you that is afraid and is in survival mode, you're not really going to be able to pull it off. So creating your custom transition plan that you can feel safe in. And of course, there's internal components to this transition plan and tangible financial components to say, okay, when is the right time for me? Am I somebody who just wants to transition as fast as possible and I'm willing to get really risky with it, but my timeline is my priority? I've had clients like that. I had a client who did transition out of her 9-to-5 job in 6 months. She moved out of her apartment that she had been living in for 10 years and she started traveling the world and becoming a digital nomad. And she just released her first book. So she took the risky route, but she made the conscious, intentional decision for her based on her plan, and she felt safe in that. There are other clients that I have where they're like, yes, I want to make this transition, but I want to make sure that I'm making X amount in my business, or I have this amount set aside in savings. These are my minimum priorities that I need to maintain in my life. These are the things I'm willing to get rid of. And now I know exactly what I'm working towards. And I know exactly when I'm able to make these transitions and fade out. And so really what it comes down to is these people feel safe. They feel confident. They feel in control. They have a plan. They have a strategy that's in alignment for them. And they know how to work towards it and know how to make progress towards it.
I love that. I think looking at it holistically, or looking at it in that way, where you're working on yourself, you're working on what's important to you and your values, what you can live without, what are your non-negotiables, things like that. And then relating that back to the money aspect is something that we typically have not touched at all. Like we've talked about our values, we've talked about, what we need to do to make ourselves feel enough or worthy. But at the end of the day, as you put it, the money aspect is kind of the golden egg there. And so I love how we've been able to bring that full circle. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with on a day-to-day basis. Something you touched on just now, just the opportunity to say, in 6 months, I want to transition over from this to this. How can I make that happen? And it's not just, I need this amount of money in my bank account. It's not just that at all. It is, it's a compilation of all these other things that we spoke about that needs to be ready and in a position to take advantage of what's out there for you in abundance.
Yeah, exactly.
So Scarlett, this has been such an honest and amazing conversation, very insightful. You've given us the permission to see money not as a verdict of our worth, but as a mirror and a tool that we can learn to work with. So before we leave, I like to give our listeners an affirmation, something positive to leave with related to this episode and what we've spoken about, so we can all speak to ourselves in abundance. We can all speak to ourselves from a place of positivity and just being able to receive all the great things that's due to us, right? That we're worthy of. So our affirmation of the episode is that I'm not defined by my past money mistakes. I'm allowed to earn, receive, and hold more without betraying who I am. My pricing, my boundaries, and my choices can honor both my heart and my bank account. Money is a mirror, not my master, and I am safe to be fully supported by the work that I love. I am worthy of abundance that feels aligned in my body, in my spirit, and in my life. Scarlett, can you tell us where we can find you, find out more information, plug into your world, and be able to start that process of transforming their relationship with money?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the first thing that you can do, and this ties perfectly into everything that we've been talking about, is I actually have a free quiz where you can discover your money mindset type and how to work specifically with your money mindset type to step into more alignment and more abundance. So this is the perfect way that you can start to bring awareness to your relationship with money and start to shift it. So you can discover your money mindset type on my website, the Biz Hippie. bizhippie.com/quiz. And then other ways you can connect with me is I do have my own podcast as well. It's called the Empowered and Abundant Podcast. It's on all podcast platforms. It's also on my website as well, thebizhippie.com/podcast. And I am present on Instagram as well. So that's where you can connect with me at the Biz Hippie.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Scarlett. And thank you so much, dreamers and doers who are listening and love to have a conversation around how do we become more aligned with everything in our life, not just one thing or the other, but we're able to find success and fulfillment. And so I'll see you on the next episode, and be safe out there.